All right, let's dive straight into this explainer on Vietnam's official letter 5427. Now, if you've been watching the Southeast Asian market at all, you know Vietnam is absolutely booming. I mean, it's a prime destination for global capital right now, but a recent shift in the rules has completely rewritten the playbook for foreign direct investment. It offers lightning-fast setup times, which sounds great, but as we're going to see, it hides some very sharp, very expensive edges. So we're going to unpack exactly what these changes mean for you. Normally, setting up a foreign entity involves just a massive mountain of red tape before you can even think about signing a commercial lease. So if you're looking to establish your operations quickly, these new rules, they're incredibly appealing. We're talking about a system that lets you hit the ground running. You can sign leases, open bank accounts, hire your core staff, all before securing those long traditional investment approvals. Sounds perfect, right? Well, just wait until we get into the fine print. Here's our quick roadmap for today. First, Vietnam's new FDI rules. Second, the 2 pathways for investors. Third, the hidden compliance trap. Fourth, 4 major compliance risks. And finally, the 3-layer defense. Let's get into it. Part 1, Vietnam's new FDI rules driven by official letter 5427. Let's lay down the foundation. This official letter from the Ministry of Finance essentially operationalizes the broader Investment Law 2025 and Decree 96. Local finance departments in massive economic hubs, places like Ho Chi Minh City and Da Nang, were actively asking for clarity on how to actually apply the new laws. And this letter, it serves as the government's definitive answer on how to handle foreign entity establishment moving forward. This entire new regulatory approach fundamentally operates on a trust but verify model. Honestly, think of it like being handed the keys to a ridiculously fast sports car without having to take a driving test first. The state is handing over legal trust and proactive rights right at the starting line, which allows you to establish your business almost instantly. But they keep a very heavy hammer ready for the verify phase later on. So they give you the flexibility to move fast, but make no mistake, you carry the entire compliance burden. Moving to part 2, 2 pathways for investors and how to choose your entry strategy. Under this new framework, foreign investors now have 2 completely distinct pathways for market entry. You're no longer locked into just one rigid, drawn-out process. You've got a massive strategic choice to make on day 1. Pathway A prioritizes speed to market, so you can hire and lease quickly. Pathway B, on the other hand, offers much greater regulatory certainty before you spend any significant money on your setup. Let's make this real for a second. Imagine you're an IT firm, right? You just need an office and a dozen software devs immediately. Pathway A is your golden ticket. It lets you form the legal entity first and grab the actual investment certificates later. But if you're building a highly restricted, specialized chemical manufacturing plant, Pathway B is your traditional, safer route, where you lock in absolutely all your approvals before making a move. Now, looking at the core requirements, Pathway A completely drops the investment registration certificate, the IRC requirement at setup. Instead of waiting around for that certificate, it's replaced with a self-declaration commitment. But here's the trade-off. By bypassing the IRC up front, you have to submit a formal, legally binding commitment guaranteeing that your business meets all market access conditions. Meanwhile, Pathway B still requires that IRC up front, but crucially, it doesn't force you to make that potentially risky self-declaration. And that brings us to part 3, the hidden compliance trap, or what we call the illusion of approval. Because here is where we really need to slow down. The pure speed of Pathway A masks a very dangerous hidden trap. According to official letter 5427 itself, the law does not require the business registration agency to review the substantive content of your market access commitment. What does that actually mean in plain English? It means when you submit your paperwork, the person stamping your approval isn't some elite trade lawyer checking your math against international law. Not at all. They are basically just a bouncer checking to see if you filled out the form correctly. An approved registration gives this really convincing illusion of absolute approval. You might be sitting there thinking, well, hey, the government approved my registration, so I must be totally fine. Wrong. Actually, scratch that. You are entirely legally liable for your market access commitment. The state has shifted 100% of the accountability directly onto you, the investor. If your self-assessment against WTO limits or bilateral treaty restrictions is wrong in any way, the legal fallout rests entirely on your shoulders. Part 4, 4 major compliance risks. Let's look at exactly what happens when you get it wrong. If your business falls into this compliance trap, the source material identifies 4 major existential risks that can derail your entire FDI project. When the government finally transitions from that initial trust phase to the eventual verify phase, we aren't just talking about minor administrative hiccups or a slap on the wrist. These are critical threats to your ability to even operate in Vietnam. And these compound insanely fast. You might misinterpret a really complex clause in international free trade agreements, like the CPTPP or the EVFTA. Or maybe you just lack the strict documentary proof for your compliance capacity when the auditors actually knock on your door. You could even face a crazy situation where a local commune enthusiastically approves your initial setup, but then the provincial authorities later completely reject your investment certificate because of a misalignment in how the rules are interpreted. The dominoes just fall so fast. Now, listen, why this matters to you directly is that this pierces the corporate veil. This isn't just some corporate fine that gets absorbed as a simple cost of doing business. No way. Under Decrees 16.8 and 92, the founders are authorized representatives who actually sign these initial commitments bear personal legal responsibility for their truthfulness. Depending on the severity of the false declaration, this can lead to personal administrative penalties, up to and literally including criminal charges. Which leads us to our final section, Part 5, the three-layer defense. How do we structure your compliance shield so you can actually use the fast track safely? Staunchly Vietnam recommends a highly specific structural framework to protect your operations. It's a three-layer defense that starts way before you even file a single document, and it protects you throughout the entire life cycle of your investment. It's all about moving toward engineered compliance. You're moving away from a reactive stance, where you just file papers and cross your fingers, to a proactive, structured defense that totally eliminates the guesswork. Let's walk through how a successful company actually executes this. Step 1. Before they even file, they do incredibly deep pre-filing due diligence. They map out foreign ownership limits, review those free trade agreement treaties early. Step 2. They don't just sign some generic piece of paper. They draft highly accurate commitments and back them up with formal legal opinion letters from true experts. They keep the receipts. And finally, Step 3, they use ongoing monitoring to ensure that their initial day one promises strictly align with the reality of their operations when they eventually apply for that final IRC. A massive part of this is implementing international ISO standards, like 37301 for compliance and 9001 for quality management. This acts as concrete, undeniable proof of your capacity. You might be wondering, why does the government even care about an ISO standard? It's because of this psychological and practical effect it has on regulators. When an inspector shows up with that heavy hammer we talked about earlier and asks how you can prove you meet these complex requirements, handing them an internationally recognized ISO certification completely changes the tone of the conversation. It proves you have a rigorous system in place, not just a verbal promise. Because the stakes are just way too high, relying on internal guesswork is incredibly dangerous. This is where specialized advisory firms step into the ecosystem to offer critical support. You've got firms like ISC Global who can help you strategize between the two pathways and draft precise market access commitments based on deep treaty analysis. Meanwhile, partners like Staunchly Vietnam step in to provide the necessary ISO certifications and comprehensive compliance training, effectively building that multi-layered shield around your daily operations. Ultimately, these new rules give you the incredible power to choose your own path. Vietnam's FDI landscape is moving faster than ever, which is obviously fantastic for business. But we have to remember the core lesson of Official Letter 5427. Flexibility is absolutely not a free pass. Going fast without a compliance shield could be the most expensive mistake you ever make. So, as you plan your next move in this market, you really have to ask yourself, are you just built for speed, or are you built for compliance?